Divorce me, will you? Huh? Divorce? What's this all of a sudden? Your company is going downhill, isn't it? I married you thinking you'd become rich since you said you were going to be the CEO of an IT company. It started off well, but these past 3 years seem to have been a downfall, which is disappointing. Is that so? You married me for my money? Honestly, I would have divorced you immediately when I found out about the infertility, but at that time, the company seemed to be doing somewhat okay. That's why I put it off until now. I told you the company is fine. Can I really trust just your word? I don't know much, but doesn't a company going bankrupt mean taking on a huge debt? I can't bear the thought of being dragged into trouble because of that. Plus, you're infertile. That's why I'm divorcing you. What do you plan to do after divorcing me? Actually, I've already found someone better. Younger than you, not infertile, so she can have children. And she has a job with a stable income. A total upgrade from you, who might end up in debt if your company fails. There's no hesitation in my husband's words about divorcing me. It seems like he's abandoning me, thinking my company is falling and I can't have children, planning to remarry his lover. Each word he spoke felt like a stab to my heart. Such a husband, I'd rather be the one to ask for a divorce. I divorced him immediately. 5 years later, I encountered an unwanted face while shopping at the mall. Hey, isn't that the infertile ex-CEO? Turning around to a venom-filled greeting, there stood my ex-husband, and beside him was a face I didn't expect to see. I see. That's how it is. I decided to tell him the truth that I couldn't say 5 years ago. Aren't you mistaken about something? The truth will surely surprise my ex-husband. And while I'm at it, I'll throw in a little extra. I am Amy. I'm 32 years old and run an IT company. Though I say I run it, the company was just established. It's an IT company that develops systems and apps using AI, which I started with a man I knew named Mr. White. It's still small since it was just launched, but it's my proud castle. Before building this castle, I thought I wouldn't engage in love or marriage anymore as I was about to start and grow the company. However, just before launching the company, I met my husband, Kevin, and got married. Everyone was surprised since I had declared I wouldn't marry, and I was surprised myself. The marriage happened because a friend introduced me to my husband, but this friend was a bit of a tricky person. Amy, there is a guy I want you to meet instead of me. Instead, I've told you I'm not touching anything related to your love affairs. Well, there was this guy who seemed nice, so I kept him on the back burner. But I've decided to let him go. However, he's the type that doesn't give up easily on me. So I ended up telling him I'd introduce someone better than me. Keep? You have a nice boyfriend, don't you? Plus, better than Mandy? I'm 5 years older than you, not cute at all, and definitely inferior to you. That's not true. You're cool, good at your job, and I think men like that. Besides, the guy I'm introducing you to is the same age as you, so age shouldn't be a concern. But I'm about to launch a company, and I've said I won't be doing anything like romance, remember? Just meet him once, and you can fully ignore him afterward. I think if you meet once, he'll be satisfied. Please, think of it as helping someone out. Fine, but it's just this once. Whatever he says to you later, I don't want to know. With this, I sighed deeply after hanging up the phone, regretting taking on this weird request at such a busy time. Mandy is the sister of my friend. Mandy often contacts me without any particular reason, suddenly invites me out, or makes unreasonable requests like this time. She seems to have many male friends and is quite popular. However, being popular would be fine, but she tends to be careless with men. As a female friend, she's fun and a good person, but because of this, I've kept a reasonable distance and stayed out of love-related discussions to avoid getting involved in unnecessary matters. That's why, even though I'm just acquaintances with her boyfriend, I pretend not to hear anything when she talks about her backup guys. However, since she's my friend's sister and good at pleading with her lively personality, I occasionally end up agreeing to her requests, albeit reluctantly. I decided to meet the man she introduced. I'm actually about to start a company and don't really feel like being in a relationship. I'm sorry, but I'm here today just because Mandy asked me to. You're starting a company? Aren't you the same age as me, Amy? That's amazing. It's so different from me, just being overworked by the company in sales. Can I hear more about your work? Yes. I've been working in IT for a while, and I've decided to start a company with a male acquaintance. My husband was very enthusiastic and engaged in my story. It said that being an entrepreneur is lonely and it's hard to find someone who has business experience or interests to understand the values. Even my parents were opposed to me quitting my job to start my own business. Because of this, I felt good and ended up talking nonstop. However, my husband didn't show any signs of discomfort and kept nodding, his eyes sparkling more and more. Being already in my late 20s, I thought I might not meet someone who would understand my work values if I let this man go. He liked me for being a hardworking and cool woman, and we started dating. Then, before we became too busy after launching the company, we decided to get married. Of course, I had clearly communicated my work and our future family life before getting married. I think I'm going to focus on work from now on, but are you sure it's okay to get married? Kevin, you want children, don't you? It won't be possible right away. It's a bit disappointing that we can't have children right away, but first, focus on your work. Doing what you want is the most important, right? I'll also work hard on my job. We can both do our best, can't we? Regardless of how we met, I'm really glad I met my husband. I called my friend Mandy to announce our marriage and to thank her. See? I told you he'd be a good match for you, Amy. I don't remember her saying that, but let's go with it. My husband and I got married and successfully launched our company. Now I'm prioritizing work to grow the company. My husband never complains and supports me. I'm glad to have married such a good person. However, as time passed, the situation gradually began to change. 3 years into our marriage, my company was growing smoothly and work had become more manageable. I also turned 35. It's time to address the issue we've been postponing. I know it's a bit weird to say this to a woman, but Amy, you're getting on in years, right? So I was thinking maybe it's time we start trying for a child. I know, we need to think about children too. I'm glad. I was worried you'd say we don't need children because of work. I wouldn't say that. I do want children. It's just that the timing was bad because of the company. But is the company okay? If you get pregnant, you won't be able to work, right? It'll be fine because Mr. White is there. Plus, a lot can be done via telework. I'm not underestimating parenting, okay? I'll work hard at parenting too, so don't worry. My husband, who had been anxious, showed a clear expression of relief. I should have noticed his concerns and reassured him sooner, but I was too focused on work to notice. I'm truly grateful to have been allowed to do as I please by my husband. However, I realized that I had been relying too much on my husband and needed to reflect on that. After that, my husband and I started trying for a baby in earnest. The natural pregnancy rate for women in their late 30s is about 18%. Compared to women in their 20s, this number is low. However, if we continue trying for a year, the chances of getting pregnant are over 60%. This number isn't too low at all. That's what I thought. But sorry, it's because I'm old. I'm the same age, aren't I? Stop saying things like that, even as a joke. It's been a year since we started trying for a baby, and we still haven't succeeded. I tried to lighten the mood at home with a joke, but it only made us feel emptier together. We might have gotten pregnant if it was right after we got married. I started to feel guilty towards my husband. So, with a desire to increase our chances of pregnancy, I decided to visit the gynecologist for fertility advice. But this decision only made my guilt worse. I need fertility treatments. I was told that today after getting tested at the gynecologist. So, does that mean we can't have kids? Hearing the word treatment made Kevin's shoulders slump. I felt guilty seeing him like that, but it wasn't as hopeless as he seemed to think. I told my husband there was still hope for pregnancy. We can still have children. The success rate for fertility treatments in women in their late 30s is 30%. That's not too low, is it? If we undergo treatment, we can have children. When I heard this from the doctor, I felt as though a ray of hope had shone through. However, Kevin didn't seem to think so. So you're saying, after taking the 30% chance with fertility treatments, we still have to consider the natural pregnancy rate of 18%, and that rate will decrease as we get older. Isn't this a tougher chance than we thought? Even after hearing my words, Kevin remained downcast. The infertility is due to my body, so I do feel guilty towards him. However, it's not like we can't get pregnant at all, so I wished he would say we should try together. At that moment, I felt a great chasm had formed between us. After discovering my infertility, Kevin and I decided to continue trying for a baby, including fertility treatments. However, the gap that formed between us seemed deeper than I thought, and Kevin was uncooperative with the fertility efforts. I'll be home late today, so go ahead and sleep without me. You don't have to wait like before. Again? You've been coming home late a lot recently. Just like you were busy with work, I'm trying my best too. A year after the infertility discovery, our attempt at having a baby quietly ended. Kevin seemed to be working hard, so I decided to put my energy back into work. However, it seems when one bad thing happens, more follow, and I found myself stressed with work too. You've been really frantic since last year, haven't you? Are you busy? But even when you were busy and looked tired, you seemed happy. Did something happen? It's been 5 years since I started the company. It was going well until recently, but the momentum has stalled. Is the business in trouble? It's not like that. It's just that growth has plateaued recently. if it's just a plateau after doing well. Isn't that fine? Other companies are growing rapidly, so staying the same is essentially the same as declining. If we don't take action now, things will only get worse. I might not understand fully, but is the company really okay? Yes, it's fine. I'm sure we'll manage somehow. Managing somehow? Are you sure that's okay to say without any basis? Since discovering my infertility, I felt Kevin had become somewhat distant. However, that wasn't the case. He seemed to be worried about me. Is the company okay? Has the situation improved a bit since then? Kevin continued to express concern for me over time. While I appreciated his worry, even after 1 year, then 2, the situation remained unchanged and I kept scrambling. You keep saying it's fine, but it's been 3 years now? A lot of time has passed, and isn't your company reaching its limit? I told you it's fine. We have just a bit more to go. That sounds like something someone in a desperate situation would say. It seems like your company isn't doing well after all. Well, running a company isn't something that just goes smoothly. It's better to work a regular job and try hard than to chase strange dreams. Can you stop talking like that? It's the truth, isn't it? I've been working steadily and got promoted over these 5 years. In contrast, your company is in a precarious situation. Who can say you've been working properly? That's why I'm saying it's going to be okay soon. Alright, I got it. My husband scoffed at me and then left the living room. Unable to retort, I remained in the living room, holding back my frustration. My husband has indeed been working hard. There are days he comes home later than me, and he sometimes works on weekends or goes on business trips. Just like I've been working hard at my job, he has been diligent in his own right. But just because he's achieved good results, it doesn't mean he should look down on my work. Since that day, my husband clearly started looking down on me. Your company is about to go under, isn't it? Every time he sees my face at home, he throws hurtful words at me. But I thought it was just a little more patience I needed. Just when I thought we were close to overcoming this, my husband dropped a bomb I couldn't endure. Divorce me, will you? Huh? Divorce? What's this all of a sudden? When my husband came home from work, he confronted me, who was preparing dinner, and suddenly demanded a divorce. I never thought he would go as far as asking for a divorce, and my hands trembled as I turned off the stove. Your company is going downhill, isn't it? I married you thinking you'd become rich since you said you were going to be the CEO of an IT company. It started off well, but these past 3 years seem to have been a downfall, which is disappointing. Is that so? You married me for my money. Would I seriously listen to your complicated job talk if it wasn't for that? I would have divorced you immediately when I found out about the infertility, but the company seemed okay back then. But now, there's no point in staying together if the company's doing poorly, right? I told you, the company is fine. Can I really trust just your word? I don't know much, but doesn't a company going bankrupt mean taking on a huge debt? I can't bear the thought of being dragged into trouble because of that. Plus, you're infertile. That's why I'm divorcing you. Being infertile doesn't mean it's absolutely impossible, does it? You just stopped cooperating. What do you plan to do after divorcing me? Actually, I've already found someone better. Younger than you, not infertile, so she can have children. And she has a job with a stable income. A total upgrade from you, who might end up in debt if your company fails. There is no hesitation in my husband's words about divorcing me. Every word he speaks feels like it's tearing at my heart. Initially, I thought about avoiding divorce, but now I'd rather be the one to ask for it. If you already have someone else, doesn't that mean you're committing adultery? Guess that's what it would be. Adultery, and compensation for it. I prepared for that. He casually tossed a large envelope onto the kitchen table. It looked unnaturally bulged, suggesting something thick was inside. Dealing with claims and all that is a hassle, right? There is $20,000 in there. So can we just settle this divorce smoothly with that as a settlement fee or severance payment? What are you talking about? How could I possibly accept that money? Don't act tough. Don't you need every bit of money you can get right now? Or are you planning to throw a tantrum saying you don't want to divorce me? I'll divorce you, but I don't want your money. Reaching my limit with my husband's actions, I left the still cool pot of soup on the stove and started preparing to leave the house. We divorced soon after. Of course, I didn't claim the adultery compensation to avoid further upset. Right now, I can't afford to spend my nerves and energy on divorce or adultery. However, when the divorce was decided, I did contact Mandy, who introduced me to my former husband to report, and it was a moment of emotional strain. I'm sorry, despite your introduction, we ended up getting a divorce. It's fine, isn't it? Whether to divorce or not is up to the two of you. Mandy, you broke up with your boyfriend about half a year ago, right? Now we're both single. Yeah, but don't lump me in with you. I got someone on the back burner. It seems Mandy still has a careless way with men. However, her attitude towards me has changed. She used to be friendly, bright, and aggressive, but now her responses to my words are cold. She must be upset because I divorced the ex-husband she introduced me to. After the divorce, our communication abruptly stopped. Losing any friend is a lonely thing, but I can't dwell on it. I braced myself, taking a sharp breath through my nose, ready to face what's next. 5 years after the divorce, I was off work and went shopping at the mall. That's when I ran into a face I did not want to see. Hey, isn't that the infertile ex-CEO? Turning around to a venom-filled greeting, there stood my ex-husband, and beside him was a face I didn't expect to see. Long time no see. You still live around here? What? Mandy? It's not unusual for my ex-husband and Mandy to know each other and be together. However, seeing a big child standing right behind them is surprising. Yet, I somehow had an idea. I married Kevin. This kid is ours, Kevin and mine. Jealous of our child? Mandy got pregnant right away, unlike you. My ex-husband and Mandy seemed proud to bring the child to the front, showing him off to me. The child, looking about elementary school age, stood there, embarrassed by the sudden attention. Clearly, the someone better my ex-husband mentioned was indeed Mandy. Judging by the child's age, he must have been conceived right after our divorce. Perhaps Mandy was already pregnant before we divorced. A relationship deep enough to have a child suggests it wasn't just a recent affair. My ex-husband, who often came home late, worked on weekends, or went on business trips, must have been pretending to work while actually engaging in an affair. Mandy, while introducing my ex-husband to me, probably kept him as one of many backups, eventually promoting him to her main interest as he became more successful. Cutting off contact with me might have been her way to avoid getting tangled in the divorce mess. Standing there, seeing my ex-husband and Mandy with their child, my mind raced with these thoughts. Sorry for taking Kevin. You're over 40 now, so you're still single, right? Since she's infertile, she's obviously alone. Don't say such pitiful things. How's work? Has your company gone under and left you drowning in debt? Kevin's the one saying pitiful things. My ex-husband and Mandy looked down on me together. However, they were unaware of the truth about me. Aren't you misunderstanding something? I decided it was time to reveal the truth I hadn't shared 5 years ago. While talking with the two of them, a man approached us. Sorry, the restroom was crowded. Who are these people? My ex-husband and Mandy, who introduced him to me. You heard about them, right? These are the people. Nice to meet you. I'm Amy's husband, George. What? Husband? That's right. Remember White? The guy I started a business with. George is White. So you remarried a work colleague. We were business partners, so there were no romantic feelings at first, but after the divorce, I realized how much he supported me. Both seemed surprised to learn I had remarried, likely more shocked by George bringing a child along than the fact of my remarriage. I get the marriage part, but that child? I've been wondering since earlier. Is he your husband's child from a previous marriage or something? Don't be rude. He is my and George's child. What? You had a child? I thought you were infertile. How did this happen? That's a rude thing to say. Didn't I tell you I wasn't completely unable to get pregnant? Unlike you, George was supportive of infertility treatment from the start of our relationship, and he actively participated in fertility efforts. Then, just before I turned 40, we had this child. But at 40, wouldn't the chances of pregnancy be even lower than when we were together? Just because the odds decrease doesn't mean they drop to zero. Indeed, the natural pregnancy rate at 40 is around 5%, and the success rate for fertility treatments was about 15%. But with George's support, it doesn't matter how low the odds are. When a couple truly cooperates, storks can bring babies, you know? My ex-husband began to show a frustrated expression. He tried to lord over me with being single and infertile, but it was all in vain. Mandy, too, seemed displeased, likely thinking she had been leading a happier life than me, only to find out I was remarried with a child, placing us on even ground. Mandy's face seemed a bit irked as well. Desperate to assert dominance, they started poking at work-related topics. George, it must have been tough with the company. What do you do now? That's right, Amy. What kind of work are you doing now? You two are misunderstanding something again. We're still working at our company, you know. What? I thought your company went under. How much more rude can you be? Our company didn't go under. In fact, right after we divorced, the company went public, making it easier to raise funds and gain credit. Over the past 5 years, it has grown significantly. No way. That's totally different from what Kevin told me. My ex-husband and Mandy showed their most surprised faces of the day. The company was a critical factor that influenced my ex-husband's decision-making regarding our marriage and divorce. Discovering that the reality was Nearly the opposite of what they imagined, was understandably shocking. Now, I could finally share with my husband the news I hadn't been able to tell 5 years ago. You were busy for 3 years before our divorce, and all you ever said was everything's fine. How could such a company go public? That busyness was because we were preparing for the IPO. Going public takes time for audits and applications. It took us 3 years, that's why. What? So you were already planning to go public back then? Why didn't you tell me? Talking about preparing for an IPO could violate insider trading regulations. In other words, it would be a crime. I couldn't just say it. I wanted you to trust me when I said it was going to be okay. So, your company was that big to go public? Do you think only big-name corporations can go public? The requirements for an IPO vary by market, and even our company size 5 years ago was sufficient. So, to grow our already stalling company even bigger, we went public. Have you been promoted since then? Well, a little promotion wouldn't compare to the scale of our company's growth. So I guess asking might not mean much. My ex-husband failed to dominate in the work department as well. Plus, my slightly prickly comments seemed to have left him feeling bitter. Having counteracted all their remarks, I felt satisfied. Ignoring my sulking ex-husband and Mandy, I turned to their child. How old are you? I'm 6 years old. For Kevin's child, you're quite mature. Wait, 6 years old? Recalling the child's age, I suddenly remembered something. Mandy, you broke up with your previous boyfriend about half a year before Kevin and I divorced, right? Your ex contacted me to say he was suddenly dumped by you. Was that because you were pretending to be happy with him until just before the breakup? And since Kevin was involved, considering it was a year before our divorce, that means you were seeing both at the same time? Choosing my words carefully in front of the child. Are you suggesting this child is my ex's? That's ridiculous. This child is mine and Kevin's. Look at this kid. Doesn't he look like me? The meaning behind my vague words vanished. I wasn't seriously thinking they weren't the parents of the child. I just hoped that knowing my ex-husband and Mandy's relationship overlapped might cause them a little trouble. However, from my ex-husband's reaction, it seemed he knew Mandy had a boyfriend during their affair. George, shall we go? Yes. Let's. Disgusted by these two hopeless individuals, we decided to leave the scene. At that moment, I hadn't imagined my casual words would lead to the collapse of my ex-husband and Mandy's relationship. Months after encountering my ex-husband and Mandy, I unexpectedly received a call from my ex-husband. Did you know? Why didn't you tell me? What are you talking about? I have no idea what you mean. It's about our child. Just like you said, the child was from her ex. What? Really? I couldn't help but laugh inappropriately at the unexpected turn of events. It seems there was a chaos around my ex-husband because the child he thought was his turned out not to be. After what you said at the mall, to be sure, we decided to do a DNA test for peace of mind. It showed the child wasn't mine, and further investigation revealed it was her ex's child. So, Mandy cuckooed you? No, it's more complicated than that, because I've been raising someone else's child for 6 years. I don't want to take care of someone else's child anymore, so I asked Mandy for a divorce. But Mandy thought it was my child too, not a deliberate deception, so she won't divorce me. Both of us thought it was our child, so legally, it's listed as mine, making it incredibly difficult to undo that parental relationship. Now I'm stuck raising someone else's child. As my ex-husband rambled on, I became increasingly annoyed. And now her ex knows it's his child and wants to take custody, but he has no intention of remarrying Mandy. Mandy doesn't want to give up the child without being together. If only she would hand over the child, it would all be resolved neatly. A quagmire among my ex-husband who wants a divorce, the ex-boyfriend who wants the child, and Mandy who wants to keep the child but not be a single mother. I haven't heard from the ex-boyfriend, so I can't comment on that. But I had some words for my ex-husband. You're a big company CEO, right? Can't you help me out with some top-notch lawyer or money? We were married once, weren't we? Furious at my ex-husband's selfishness, I unleashed a tirade. Why should I help someone as irresponsible as you? If you've been a parent for 6 years, that child is your beloved child, isn't it? Who cares who the real father is? Take responsibility and raise him. I hung up in a huff. Later, I heard the child was taken in by the ex-boyfriend. I know the ex-boyfriend to be far more decent than my ex-husband and Mandy, so I was relieved the child wasn't left with them. However, I regret that my offhand remark led to turmoil for a 6-year-old child. But if the ex-boyfriend is caring for the child, I trust he'll support his mental well-being. Mandy, now childless, was mentally distressed. My ex-husband, not supporting Mandy, pushed for divorce. Losing the child, Mandy agreed to the divorce. Terrible tales spread, making my ex-husband a target of condemnation, abandoned even by his family and now completely isolated. My ex-husband, under constant criticism, is mentally suffering. While my ex-husband and Mandy might be in pain, I believe the child, dragged through their mess, suffered the most. They deserve to face their hardships. Life and work are thriving for us. Our company continues to grow and our child is happily growing up. George, already fussing over school desks for our kindergartner, brings me joy in our ordinary discussions about our child.